The contract was signed on a park bench under the bright afternoon sun, with pigeons fluttering nearby and traffic humming like a distant warning. And in that moment Julian Crestwood believed he was making the most logical decision of his powerful life. A self-made millionaire by 42, owner of glass towers and silent boardrooms, Julian had everything except the one thing his wealth could not buy on its own: a child. Doctors had closed every door, and desperation pushed him toward an idea that felt calculated, clean, and controlled. He would pay a homeless woman to carry his child, no strings attached, no emotional risks, or so he thought. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected miracles, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Life Spark Stories. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them. Mara Ellison had been living on the streets for 3 years, surviving on donated meals and hope stretched thin by cold mornings and long days. She was 30, small-framed, with tired eyes that still held something unbroken. When Julian approached her with the offer in that sunlit park, it sounded unreal, almost cruel. A safe apartment, medical care, monthly payments, and a future fund, all in exchange for carrying a child she would never keep. Hunger and fear argued with her heart, but survival won. The arrangement moved quickly, and soon Mara was living in a modest apartment washed in daylight, learning again what it felt like to sleep without fear. As months passed, Julian visited only when necessary, keeping emotional distance like a shield. He watched Mara's belly grow as if it were an investment maturing, yet something unsettled him. She treated the pregnancy with a tenderness he had not anticipated, walking slowly in the sunlit streets, resting her hands on her stomach as if whispering promises. Meanwhile, Julian's pristine life felt strangely hollow. Boardroom victories no longer thrilled him, and the thought of the unborn child filled him with both anticipation and unease. The pregnancy was smooth, and the birth happened on a clear morning when sunlight spilled through hospital windows. Julian arrived expecting relief, closure, the final step in his carefully engineered plan. But when the nurse placed the newborn in his arms, the world tilted. The baby had a distinct crescent-shaped birthmark on his shoulder, identical to one Julian carried, but that was not the shock. The child's eyes were a rare gray-green shade, the same as Mara, and the resemblance between mother and child was undeniable. Julian had known biology, had known what surrogacy meant, but seeing it made everything painfully real. This was not just his heir. This was her child too. Mara, pale and exhausted, looked at the baby with tears sliding silently down her temples, sunlight touching her face like forgiveness. Julian realized in that moment that he had treated a human life as a transaction, and the cost was heavier than any sum he had paid. He felt something crack open inside him, a realization that the woman he had seen as a means to an end had given him more than a child. She had given him a mirror. Days passed, and Julian could not bring himself to leave. He watched Mara recover, watched her memorize every detail of the baby's face. Guilt gnawed at him during the bright afternoons as he walked hospital corridors flooded with light. He remembered his own childhood, raised by money but starved of warmth, and understood the cruelty of repeating that cycle. The contract allowed him to take the child and disappear, yet his conscience refused to stay silent. Julian made a decision that shocked his advisors and terrified his carefully ordered world. He offered Mara a place in the child's life, not as a servant to his wealth, but as a mother rebuilding her future. He funded her education, supported her healing, and chose presence over power. The baby, named Elias, grew in sunlit rooms filled with laughter instead of silence. Julian learned to be more than a provider. He learned to be human. Years later, on a warm afternoon in a city park much like the one where it all began, Julian watched Mara push Elias on a swing while sunlight danced through the trees. Wealth still surrounded him, but it no longer defined him. What began as an act of control had transformed into an act of redemption. If this story moved you, touched your heart, or made you reflect on compassion and choice, Please show your support by liking and engaging with this video. Your interaction keeps stories like this alive. Special request: comment below what you think true kindness really means.